Welcome to another episode of the Granite List Live. I'm your host, Sally Pace, and for the next few weeks, we're bringing you a series of selected interviews drawn from our recent webinar series. These topics come from the most searched terms on the Granite List website, and I'm certain it will benefit you the same way it did our webinar audience. Sally Pace, and when our team created the Granite List, we knew that it was going to be a useful resource for benefits leaders to help cut through the clutter and be able to streamline the process of finding solutions. And over the past couple of years, it's really grown into one of the most trusted resources for benefits leaders who are searching and sourcing new solutions. And the beauty of the platform is that we also are able to capture some of the most frequently searched words and terms. And of course, two of the most frequently searched are transparent, or a variation of transparency, and pharmacy. And so today's topic of prescription benefits through a legal lens could not be more fitting for what benefit leaders care about right now. So I am delighted that I am joined by my amazing friend, Allie Goodwin. Allie is the Director of Corporate Relations for TrueScripts. She's working to complement technical details with a creative approach that engages the audience and delivers them from problem to solution. And it's the driving force of her efforts and support on the TrueScripts team. With a fun-loving spirit and appreciation of candor and wit, and Allie enjoys making new connections and supporting TrueScripts' mission of building lasting relationships. And I can attest to this. She is a lover of all things cheesy, both food and jokes. So with that, Allie, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Sally. Y'all, I did not know that was going to be read out loud. I might have tweaked that a bit, but that is a little about me. Thank you, Sally, for having me, and thank you everyone else for tuning in to discuss prescription benefits through a legal lens. And I'd like to preface the conversation just by saying that I am not a lawyer, and nor will I be giving legal advice today. My goal here, y'all don't want that, trust me. My goal is just to discuss some of the pharmacy benefit management practices that are taking over news headlines as of late. Between legislation, lawsuits, and lies, PBMs are getting far more than their 15 minutes of fame. Really, we just want to make sure that you and your clients stay out of those headlines. So I just want to kick things off by discussing and giving a brief overview of a few timely and popular happenings. First, the Pharmacy Benefit Manager Transparency Act of 2023. In short, this bipartisan bill was approved last year to be sent on to the full Senate, and it's an act that would help lower drug costs and increase transparency for consumers. By doing a few things. It would make spread pricing illegal, meaning that health plans could not be charged more for prescription drugs than what is being reimbursed to the pharmacy. It would prohibit clawbacks or those prescription drug overpayments that occur when a member's copayment exceeds the actual cost of the drug, and then the PBM pockets or claws back that difference. It would prohibit increased fees and lower pharmacy reimbursements, which PBMs may use to offset their reimbursements from federally funded health plans. And then it would require PBMs to disclose the cost and reimbursement of drugs to the health plan, including any fees or discounts that they incur. And finally, it would require PBMs to pass through 100% of rebates to the plan sponsor, whose money it already belongs to. And I'm pretty sure that all of those attributes are things that we would like to see in any PBM today. So hopefully the act goes through. However, I don't believe anything is scheduled on it. So it remains in legislative limbo for the time being. Next, the White House roundtable discussion that occurred earlier this month. So late last month, word was given that Congress had dropped plans that were part of a federal funding package for PBM reform. So the plans for PBM reform were dropped from that funding package. the administration sensed the missed opportunity here. And so the White House hosted a roundtable discussion earlier this month on pharmacy benefit managers and their practices. The administration does agree that it is unacceptable that Americans, unfortunately, they pay 2 to 3 times more than people in other countries for the same prescription drugs. I think this is something we can all agree on. I guess unless maybe those overpayments are funding your multi-million-dollar beach house in Ibiza, then you might think otherwise. But I digress. So anyways, senior officials and other leaders met to discuss plans and exchange ideas for lowering drug costs and improving PBM practices. Among that discussion, explanations for why more transparency is needed and how some PBMs and their practices can block lower priced drugs from reaching patients. They described ways in which some PBMs may mark up drug prices and prevent market competition, and just other general flaws within the current system. All things that need to be addressed and reproved. So it's a shame that these reform plans were left out of that federal funding package, and it's business as usual for PBMs for the time being. And last but not least, we have possibly the most popular news headline as of late, the J&J lawsuit. This class action lawsuit was filed by an employee of Johnson & Johnson, and it accuses the employer plan sponsor of breaching its fiduciary duties and mismanaging the plan's prescription drug benefits. That's it in a nutshell. The breach of fiduciary duty is alleged in several ways, and I have a few of those that are taken directly from the lawsuit. First, it alleged that J&J failed to complete a prudent PBM selection process. They agreed to make the plan and its beneficiaries pay unreasonable prices for prescription drugs. They agreed to contract terms with its PBM that needlessly allows the PBM to enrich itself at the expense of the company's plan and its beneficiaries. The plan sponsor failed to actively manage and oversee key aspects of the company's prescription drug program, and they failed to take available steps to rein in its PBM's profiteering and protect plan assets and beneficiaries' interests. If y'all haven't read through that lawsuit, I encourage you to do so. It is a pretty easy read for a lawsuit, and I would almost say enjoyable to read if it weren't so alarming and just sad. It really brings light to some of the most devious and terrible PBM practices out there. And it really, rightfully should raise questions and concerns among plan sponsors and even broker and advisors alike. Uh, but my point in reviewing some of these hot news headlines is just to showcase a common theme, and that's the need for truth and transparency in the prescription benefit marketplace. Y'all, we cannot wait for that to be mandated, though. Legislative advances could be years down the road, but the next lawsuit could be just days away. Anyone can file a lawsuit for a couple $100. But the beauty is we don't have to wait. The more you know now, the better solutions you can put in place now. So I want to just dive into some of those marketing buzzwords that PBMs love to use so much. And all the transparency and fiduciary frill in the world means nothing without definition and verifiable commitment. So, fiduciary in a nutshell really just means loyalty and prudence. Loyalty by way of legal obligation to act in the best interest of another rather than oneself, and prudence by maintaining responsibility to use care, caution, and good judgment in handling affairs for others. While I definitely think that it is important for PBMs to act in a fiduciary manner, it is so important to note that they do not hold legal fiduciary duty. And in light of this lawsuit, you're going to see a lot of PBMs touting fiduciary status in marketing materials or messaging. But as the J&J lawsuit points out, the fiduciary to the plan is the plan sponsor, not the PBM. I think the verdict is still out on where the advisor sits in terms of fiduciary acts for the plan. But in short, PBMs who claim to be a fiduciary of the plan, however, by serving in an administrative role rather than truly exercising discretionary authority over the plan, PBMs have been ruled to not be fiduciaries under ERISA, and therefore they have no legal responsibility to act as such. That is big. That means, when push comes to shove, they would hold no legal responsibility. There was an instance not too long ago. The Massachusetts Laborers Health and Welfare Fund had sued Blue Cross Blue Shield, a TPA, for breach of fiduciary duty. However, the courts ruled that Blue Cross was not exercising discretionary authority or control over the plan, and therefore they were not a fiduciary. The courts did note, however, that Blue Cross had failed to follow their contractual obligations. So it's really important to draw and define that line there and understand what true duties the PBM or TPA or any third party administrator might have for the plan. So in knowing that claims of fiduciary status don't bear much weight, if or when push comes to shove, TrueScripts has instead contractually obligated ourselves to transparency. And trust me, we dislike the word transparency just as much as the next person. It's been overused and overpromised, underdelivered on. But our contract our pharmacy services agreement actually contains an affirmative covenants and transparency commitments clause, which again contractually obligates us to operate in a fully disclosed and mission aligned manner for our clients. We have clearly defined our commitments so that any deviance from those responsibilities can be identified and reproved. So basically, you are able to trust and verify that what we are saying and what we are promising you to be true, which in a sense, going back to the definition of fiduciary, trust. And so we're really putting action to these words. I want to dive in a little more to the transparency part of things. It's no longer enough just to claim transparency based on your ability to, the PBM's ability to pass through rebates or pricing. There is so much more to it than just that. And even claiming to be passed through on rebates, there's ways that they can manipulate that. I think it's very important to know the revenue sources of your PBM. There are 50 plus ways PBMs can generate revenue through hidden practices or manipulation of processes and responsibilities that they own, where they can generate revenue through. A very low or even a $0 admin fee should be a red flag. No one is working for free, and they shouldn't. But if there's no admin fee, where else is the money coming from? It's being pulled from somewhere. And if you don't know where it's being pulled from, you can't possibly know how much is being taken. So it's very important that there are clearly defined admin fees. The only way that money is made. And I think true transparency also translates to auditability. So we provide clients with complete insight to invoicing so that everyone can understand what they are paying for, and how much. Access to data is another big one. Informed decisions can only be made when you have all the facts. Plus, for any plan, self-funded plan sponsor, it's their data. It should be easy to access and understand. Um, let's talk about the contract. So I've seen some contracts upwards of 50 pages. We like to joke that those 50 pages, maybe the first 25 are the PBM making promises, and the next 25 them intricately undoing those promises. And many times the contract could be so long that even if you were to take the time to read through everything, you would find that the PBM was transparent in telling you that they are engaging in spread pricing or rebate retention. So, TrueScripts, we have a 9-page contract. It is straightforward, easy to understand, and I think that plays a big part in transparency. The next one is a big one for us, and a big one if you read through the J&J lawsuit. An issue referenced several times in the J&J lawsuit is pharmacy ownership, the ownership of pharmacies by PBMs. And to paraphrase the lawsuit, when a PBM owns a pharmacy, there are foreseeable ways in which it would attempt to enrich itself and its own pharmacy at the plan's expense. Y'all, that is a huge conflict of interest. And that conflict of interest can compromise everything from a PBM's objectivity in choosing the most cost effective and clinically appropriate drugs, or it could hinder patient access to care by steering patients to those cell phone pharmacies. TrueScript's founders recognized this conflict of interest long ago, and we have vowed not to own pharmacies of any kind. On that same note, I think it's important that we discuss ownership of the PBM itself. Who owns your PBM? The top 3 PBMs are all part of companies that own healthcare insurance companies. So that vertical integration in of itself can lead to conflicts of interest and also a lack of competition, which has negative impacts on patients and plan sponsors alike. Additionally, I think PBMs receiving outside investment in the form of PE or VC funding, they any entity receiving, and I don't want to just pick on PBMs here. There are some good PBMs out there, but it changes things. They could have a different objective. Then they now have a need to maximize return for investors rather than acting in the best interest of the plan and its members. We are extremely fortunate here at TrueScripts to now be, we're independently held up until this year, and now we are a team member owned organization, or ESOP. So we are not beholden to any outside shareholders. Our team just has a vested interest in the success and happiness of our clients rather than investors. So again, I just say all this, while the thought of having a transparent or fiduciary PBM is great, those claims to fame must be identified, defined, and verified, or else all you have are some flashy words with no backbone and potentially a long list of vulnerabilities for the client, the members, and maybe even the broker advisors. We understand that these lawsuits and legislative proposals and just all of the industry happenings create feelings of fear and uncertainty and hope even. And while it is ever evolving and we might not always have the answers right then, we, myself, my team at TrueScripts, we are always open to working with you to find those answers, to provide support and education when and where we can. Our team, we have an incredible team. We have nurses, pharmacists, legal experts, data scientists, just SMEs of all kinds. And they're all so willing to help. And I truly mean that, guys. We are not in this just to build sales for TrueScripts. We want to build an industry of knowledgeable purchasers so that together we can all build a better future for healthcare and prescription benefits. So I hope this overview of everything is helpful and provides some peace of mind that you don't need to wait for legislative advances to come through and for the government to step in. There are good PBMs out there doing the right thing right now. And it's not just us here at TrueScripts. There are others, but it's all about digging in. You got to kick the tires, check under the hood. Ultimately, for plan sponsors, now it's unfortunate that this is happening with J&J. Although they've put themselves in this situation, but y'all are the responsible fiduciaries, and so we want to help you act in a fiduciary manner, but it's also really important to understand the legal aspects of that and what your PBM or any plan vendor can and should be doing to help and protect you and your members from all these crazy outside forces. And guys, that my contact information is on there, so feel free to reach out to me via that email below, allieg@truescripts.com. I assure you, I am not the smart person on our team, but gosh, I know them all, and I am more than happy to connect you if I don't have the answer. Again, anything from pharmacy related questions to legal related questions. We have an in-house counsel. We're more than happy to help.
Thanks to all of you who are participating and submitting questions. I'm going to start with one that came through the chat first, and then I'll switch to Q&A. Okay, so first one is, what other PBM practices might create legal vulnerabilities for the plan sponsor?
So there is a lot to be considered here, especially knowing that laws vary state by state. And so that's another big thing that you need to be asking your PBM. Who do they have dedicated on their team to keep up with all of these ever evolving legislative advances, these state by state regulations? It's a full-time job, but it's so important. You can't be compliant in one space and vulnerable in another. And so any of the, it could include, violations of anti-kickback or anti-steerage laws. Are they able to comply with RxDC reporting, the gag clause attestations, all of the above? You could even get down to allegations of self-dealing. And I think another big thing is benefits design compliance, compliance of your PBM's programs. And there's a lot to be considered there if they are compliant with, ERISA, HIPAA, the IRS, ACA, the whole spectrum of the alphabet soup when it comes to those acronyms. Um, Data privacy and security. Y'all are familiar with everything that's going on with Change Healthcare right now. There's so many different aspects to a PBM business that they need to be secure and protected on. There's a big one that we talk about some at TrueScripts. One of our flagship offerings is our specialty care program. And I say it's our flagship because we do things, it's probably our most unique offering in terms of program, because our SBD language is written in a way that allows us to manage all specialty drugs in-house, meaning we don't have a blanket exclusion for specialty drugs, and we're not carving those out to a bolt-on vendor. This matters because if that is carved out, meaning you don't cover specialty drugs, these medications are needing to go through a bolt-on vendor to secure some financial assistance savings through those drug manufacturers programs. If the avenue of savings is one that is income-based and the patient does not qualify, they need to come back to the PBM in order to get another form of financial assistance, typically done through a copay card. So now this creates vulnerabilities for the client because you have a level of coverage for a more highly compensated individual And so there's just a different level of coverage there for similarly situated individuals, which can create an environment of discrimination. And so, that's a big no-no in terms of compliance. You could also argue that it might be a violation of stop loss. You are saying that you're not covering these drugs, but then when an exception needs to be made, you are covering them. So it just kind of it creates a bit of a messy scenario that we've been able to streamline and be fully compliant in the programs that we offer. So there's lots of boxes that you need to check when it comes to legal vulnerabilities. We have ERISA attorneys on staff, and we're just constantly checking in with these things as these new lawsuits and legislative proposals come to light. We're checking back in, making sure that everything we have is secured. And that would be something that's a little harder to verify with a PBM, but it's something that plan sponsors and brokers absolutely need to be asking.
All right. Next one is, how do we find the J&J article? And I'm assuming also the specifics of the lawsuit.
Ooh, I have it saved actually, and I don't
Can you drop
know
it?
if I send that to you, Sally, are you able to push that out?
Yeah,
Awesome. I will
absolutely.
do that. And it's a PDF document. It is 74 pages, but I'm telling you, it's the most. I was reading through there going, oh, this is unlike any other kind of legal document. It's very easy to read and understand. And they give references of this massive differential in drug costs that was happening. And it's just something you're going to read through, and it's going to make you want to go in and kick your own tires and check under the hood for sure.
All right. The next one is, does TrueScripts provide, this says quarterly rebate reports. I would say reports of any kind at the NDC 9 level to determine if the rebates are being fully passed through versus any being withheld.
Yes, we are. We do things now at an NDC level on the rebates. We do, to your point, Sally, provide reporting of all kinds. Our clients receive quarterly KPIs. They have access to any ad hoc data reports without limit, and it's not just us saying, here's your login to the data portal, good luck. We will help you find that data and understand it and put it to use to work for you. I mean, the data is meant to work for you to help not just reduce costs, but enhance clinical outcomes as well. So, absolutely.
Last one. Some PBMs use NADAC pricing that they claim to be better than AWP minus pricing. Can you speak to that dispute and how you combat those claims?
That one might be better taken offline. There is a lot to argue and consider there. There are pros and cons on both sides. I won't say that one pricing model is superior to the other. There are advantages and disadvantages. There's just a lot to consider. And I don't know who asked that question, but it's like you said, definitely more than a 1 minute response. And I would love to, we can definitely dig into that though.
Perfect. Well, on that note, thank you all for joining today. We will follow up. There were a couple of questions that didn't get answered within our time frame, but Allie will absolutely work with you one-on-one to get the answers. So thanks for joining.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Granite List Live. Access our entire library by visiting your favorite podcast venue or subscribe on our site, thegranitelist.live.